Hi, Design Chic readers. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
And I'm Beth Woodson.
And if you weren't sure, we are the mother and daughter behind the blog Design Chic. And we know we don't come on here that much, but we're so excited to be here with you today to introduce you to a new segment that we are going to be filming every single Tuesday called Blank to Beautiful. We're going to be interviewing our favorite designers, artists, creatives, writers to talk about their journey from taking something blank and turning it into something beautiful. So we just thought this would be a really fun, interactive way to get to kind of be behind the scenes with some of our favorite people that we're featuring on the blog anyway. And so if you have a special guest in mind that you really want to come on the show, please feel free to let us know. So today is a little bit of a different episode because if you read Design Chic and you haven't heard, you haven't been reading very closely, because my sixth novel, Feels Like Falling, releases today. I cannot believe it. It's so exciting. So normally at this time, I would have left about a week ago to start my book tour. I usually tour for about 6 weeks. And so this year, obviously, I am not touring. And so we have moved most of my tour events online, which is really fun. If you would like to join in on one, you can go to KristyWoodsonHarvey.com/tour dates and look at all the fun virtual events we have going on. But we just thought this would be a really fun way to kind of kick off the series, show you what it's going to be about. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different because Mom is interviewing me today, and in the future, I will be interviewing the guests because, let's just say, being on camera is not her favorite thing.
It is definitely not, but mothers do a lot of things for their children. But I am very excited today to be doing something that I've never done before, and that is interview my daughter. So I'm excited. So Kristy, tell us about your latest project.
Okay, yay. So as I said, my new book, Feels Like Falling, is out today. You can pick it up at your local bookstore, which they would appreciate so much because this is such a hard time. It's also, of course, available on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, basically any bookstore. And you can also pick it up at Target or any of your local drugstore chains. Walmart, Kroger, or any of its affiliated grocery stores like Harris Teeter. They've put it a lot of places. It's at the airport, but you're probably not going to be there. So.
Not right now, anyway.
Probably not today. Maybe you are if you have to be. I hope you're wearing your mask. But yeah, so it's all over the place. I would really appreciate it if you checked it out. But this is a story about Gray and Diana, who are two women from very different worlds, who meet on what is arguably one of the worst days of both of their lives. So right when Diana could use a little bit of good luck and Gray could use a little bit of good karma, Gray inadvertently gets Diana fired from her job. So it's kind of an interesting and unfortunate way for these two women to meet, but it ends up thrusting them together in this kind of extraordinary situation. And they form this really sort of odd couple, unlikely friendship that neither one of them would ever have expected, because as it turns out, they're facing a lot of the same hurdles in their lives. They've both just lost a partner, albeit in different ways. Gray's going through kind of a nasty divorce, and in danger of losing not only her house, but also the business that she's built since she was 20 years old. And Diana has broken up with her boyfriend that morning when she realizes that he gambled away all of the money that she had saved to get her teeth fixed. So again, different problems, but similar. They've both just lost their mothers, albeit in very, very different ways. And neither of them know it, but they're also about to embark upon a really great love story. But it's a grown-up love story, so they come with their complications. But these two women really just come together and they help each other move into what I like to call happily ever after, the sequel, because we can all use a second chance sometimes, right?
And we can all use that right now.
Yes.
Just the way we need today.
Well, and the funny thing is, I have these cards right here, but one of my favorite quotes in the book is, sometimes when you're speeding through thin air, the brakes worn out and the engine shot, maybe it feels like you're falling, but in reality, that's when you're learning to fly. And I was like, what an appropriate term for right now, because we're all getting creative and we're all doing different things. And And
Learning
it
to
is,
fly.
we're learning to fly.
Right.
It's been very different. We've all sort of had to reinvent ourselves. So mom has read the book. She's actually the first person to read. I'm like really weird about and like superstitious about people reading the book. And so mom's the only person that gets to read them before I turn them in the first time. And then my editor goes through them and then my aunts read them. But even still, there are not that many people that read these books before they come out. So who's your favorite character?
Uh, that's kind of a hard question for me because as I'm reading your books, I think I love all the characters because I see them so just, they're so, I don't know, I see them so vividly in my mind. But maybe in this one, it's Diana.
Yeah.
I think I love that she's flawed, but yet she's resilient and she's just likable. She's a very likable character.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, I love her too. She's definitely my favorite. I think she's like one of the more interesting characters I've ever written.
I agree with that. I
Yeah.
like her very much.
She has such a backstory, and her mother,
Adele.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And the first line of her story that I wrote was, my mama always told me that anyone named after royalty would grow up to be a princess. And so that's where her name came from, Diana. But she has 3 siblings, and her mother actually abandoned them when they were young. And so they all spent, a good portion of their life growing up in foster care. And she has a special needs brother who she actually spent a long time trying to find. But now that she has, getting him back and like having him live with her is one of her main life goals. And so when she breaks up with Harry and moves out of his house and then loses her job in the same day, she realizes that she's incredibly, incredibly far from that. And so that's really hard for her. But it's actually sort of a bonding point between Diana and Gray, because Gray's sister has just married a man who she thinks is a cult leader, basically, which it's sort of serious, but it's also like a big point of comic relief in the story. It's kind of funny too. But they really sort of bond over, these relationships with their siblings and like the complexity of them. And they're coming from a very, very different place, but they also sort of understand each other and can relate to each other. And like having a situation with your sibling that you want to fix, but it's sort of out of your control. So.
Right. So what is your creative process like? Do you hide out in your room and, people bring you dinner on the tray outside the door or?
Lately. When I'm writing, no, but when we tried to take a book tour that we spent 9 months planning and then cancel it and redo it all in 8 days, yes, people are bringing me dinner on the tray. Sometimes Will get up and he'll be like, you have got to go to sleep. This is ridiculous, but it has all worked out. So I fortunately, this is my 6th novel, but that's being published. But my 7th is my 2021 book is turned in, finished, done. And I wrote 3 books before Dear Carolina, which was my debut, and then one in the middle that hasn't come out yet. So I think I've actually written like 11 novels. So at this point, like I kind of, it's easy for me to get into. It used to be a little bit more of a struggle where I really felt like I had to like get in the right headspace and like really, kind of be focused. And now it's just such a part of who I am in my life that I think it's gotten a little bit easier, and I've gotten faster just as you do with things. And that's a good thing because, as you know, I usually have about 3 projects going at the same time. So like right now we're releasing Feels Like Falling. I'm in edits for Under the Southern Sky, which is coming out in 2021. And then I'm starting to do research for my first historical novel, The Wedding Veil, which will come out in 2022. So I'm always kind of in these 3 different worlds. But when I'm writing a first draft, I generally, I write every single day, like not every day but Sunday, not every day but my birthday, not every day but spring break, like every day, all the days, because I'm in that story and I need that first draft out on paper. There's something I'm almost kind of like manic about it. Like I wrote the first draft for Slightly South of Simple in 12 days because when I have this story, I need it out, and I don't outline. I don't really plan that much. It just kind of comes as I'm sitting down and writing. So it's like I have it and I need it out. So my goal is, it used to be a word count goal. I used to try to write between 2,000 and 5,000 words a day. But that was when Will was really tiny and I didn't have any alone time. So I would have to like sneak it in where I could. And I would know I might only be able to write for 10 or 15 minutes, but I would know if I got my word count in for the day that I was on my way to writing the book. Now that he's at school, or at least, during the year, I know. Before we were homeschooling, which is added a little later. Yeah, so now that he's at school, most of the time, I try to write like 90 minutes a day. And I can get my word count in 90 minutes. And there's so many other things going on. Of course, Mom and I are working on Design Chic, and there's always a million things going on with the books and behind the scene things. And my Peachtree Bluff series has been optioned for a TV show, so there's a lot going on with that. And yay! So there are a lot of
something that I think is interesting about that I've heard you say before. I have been to a talk or two that you have done, and I
like you said, a talk or two, a talk or 200.
And I always think it's interesting that you have said before that you never let yourself read the book until you're through. Like you never let yourself go back and edit or go back, and that you completely write the entire thing, and then you sort of go back and
that is true. Because I feel like I'm doing this new project with some of my favorite authors, and it's called Friends in Fiction. So go over to Facebook and check it out. It's really fun. But Mary Kay Andrews is one of the authors, and she said the other day, somebody was asking for writing tips on our show, and she said, publishers don't publish chapters, they publish books. And I have so many people say to me like, well, I have this great idea, or I have these great chapters, but that's why I don't do that, because I'm on deadline, I'm under contract, and I need the story to be finished. And I know, even if it's the worst first draft in the world, when it's finished, I have a product. Like I have something that I can sell. And now I might have to spend weeks and months revising it and working on it and making it better, but like mentally, it's finished. It's kind of like when you're in college and you really want to go out and you have a paper due, and if you just have a draft, like you would know that worst case scenario, you had something to turn in. And that's kind of how I feel.
You'll at least be able to go out by midnight.
Exactly. Exactly right. That's exactly right.
Oh, so when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Like a lot of different things. I think a teacher. I always wanted to be a mom, which check, I've made it, so that's good. But I think like mostly a teacher. There were lots of other different things. I don't know that I can't remember ever having a time in my life being like, I want to be a writer.
Yeah. So do you feel like that relates to what you ended up doing? Because I think in some ways, you're writing.
Yeah. Well, I think what I liked about the idea of being a teacher is sort of like the creativity of it, which is ironic because the creative parts of being a teacher I'm terrible at. So I don't know why. I mean, I guess I pictured myself teaching like high school or college or something. And I got my master's, and even older, like I thought about, doing that. But I think there's something about that creative process of being able to like coming up with lesson plans and, having things that you wanted to sort of impart on people. And I think I always pictured myself being an English teacher. So that certainly relates. I mean, reading books and sharing them with people. And
you see the joy on your students' faces in the same way. I think that your readers, you get to see them and meet with them. And, it's sort of
which is so fun. And and getting to just like, I don't know, have that relationship with people where you're teaching them something new. And really, I think in writing, I mean, I write beach books, but I think there are deeper messages and deeper stories. And I love it when readers find them, and they absolutely do. That's my favorite thing. Like when I get letters and emails and messages, and I see readers at events and they tell me like how much something helped them, or how much a story meant to them, or, you know, something very specific about like something that helped them get through or helped them come to terms with. And so in that way, I mean, I do think, you know, and it's weird to say because I don't feel like, this is even weirder to say, but I don't feel like the stories are mine. It's like they come from somewhere else and they're like, I'm writing them, but I don't necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily know where they're coming from sometimes.
Well, we love that they do. So how do you think, what advice do you wish that you could give your younger self?
I mean, I need to give it to my older self too, but I think my whole life, I'm always in a hurry. And I don't even mean in the day to day, like yes, in the day to day, but I've always been super goal oriented. I still am. And I think I always want to get to that next thing so that I can get to the next thing. I'm not good at like savoring the now. And I remember I used to picture like, oh, what I'll do when I finally get a book deal. Like, no, I celebrated for like, Taylor Swift said this on her documentary. Wise words from Taylor. Your mom's face. She did, and I related to this so much because, and this is, I think, what comes back to all creative people kind of being similar. And she's like, I get the thing that I'm looking for, and I celebrate for 5 minutes, and then I spend the next 364 days trying to figure out how to do it better, or how to create it again, or how to get back to being in that spot. And I do think that's true because, you know, being in this business, you know, whether people realize it or not, it's very competitive, and it's, you know, you're always trying to be better just personally and creatively, but you're also, you know, wanting to make sure that you can maintain your spot in this world because there's always someone that really wants to take your place. So yeah.
I remember you said one time you're only as good as your last novel or something.
Exactly right. Like you're only as good as your last novel. And so every time you're trying to think, and I think now for me at this point in my career, you know, there's so many decisions to be made. And, you know, I'll talk to, this is a business where you're under contract for a couple books at a time. And then, you know, you might stay where you are, you might go somewhere else. And the funny thing to me is that I'm in this position right now where I have different editors saying to me different things about like their idea for my next steps. And some are like, oh, this is such a good jumping off point for you. Your books are getting bigger. You're, you know, going deeper with things. And then there's some people that are like, we should write more Peachtree Bluff series, or you should do another series. So it's really funny. It's like trying to define what your next step is and where you want to go, which is exciting. But it's also, you know, listening to your readers too. Like, what is it that your readers want? Do they want you to go to that next level, or do they want you? I mean, I know they want more Peachtree Bluff.
They want another Peachtree Bluff. I know that.
I understand.
I hear that a lot.
But it is exciting. And I think it's an exciting time, you know, professionally right now, and we'll see what happens next. So
that's good. So what or who inspires you?
Well, my mom.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, obviously, since I'm doing this, you better say that
really and truly. I mean, you and Dad were always like really supportive and really good about, you know, saying you can do whatever you want. And that was, and I do think that's a message that not every kid gets. And it did make me feel like, okay, I can, you know, I can try to do this, and why not me? You know, I think I think a lot of people think that's someone else. And actually that's sort of a theme of the next book that I'm writing. But I think a lot of people spend their lives thinking, well, that's going to happen to somebody else. And I think I always thought, well, it's going to happen to somebody. It might as well happen to me.
But your dad told you every day that, I mean, you could do that. I
mean, I wasn't a good singer at all. And I'll never forget being like 8 and like being like, oh my gosh, Whitney Houston's like the most amazing. He was like, oh, you could do that. And I'm like, can't even sing. Like, what are you talking about? I can't do that. Like, there are limits. Like, those are the people that go on American Idol and get so embarrassed because their dad told them that they could sing. So maybe don't take that lesson that far.
But it is good to have people that think you can do anything. Like, I think it's a great gift to your children to make them think that they,
Yeah. Well, and I think my husband was really good about that too, because I mean, I had a really good job in finance. Like, I was doing great things. And so when this started, I mean, for the very most part, most people's first book deal is not something that's going to like replace their income for a year, but he was like, this is your opportunity. You should do it. And it has paid off exponentially. But if you don't have someone that believes in you like that, and that will take that chance with you and kind of,
he has encouraged you every step of the way.
Yeah. And he never complains.
Your biggest fan.
He never complains. And like, and I've said this, I mean, especially, I mean, Will's 8 now, he's super easy, but like when he was 3 years old and I were 2 years old and I was like going on book tour, and well, the first book tour, mom, dad, little Will and I all packed up. I don't even think we got on an airplane. Like, we just drove all over the country. Like, it was, but we like had a really good time. Like, again,
I remember somebody saying to me, I cannot believe that you would do that. And I said, that's like your dream. I mean, to be able to spend 30 days with your daughter and your grandson and your husband, it's like the best thing ever.
It was super fun. And then Will would like fly in on the weekends. Yeah. But after that, you know, as he's gotten older, I mean, I'm gone. Like, I pack up and leave and they meet me on the weekends. And, you know, once Will couldn't be out of school for, you know, 4 to 6 weeks when I was on tour, it's a lot for him because he's working all day and, you know, scheduling carpool. I mean, I try to have everything organized before he leaves. And, you know, we obviously have help during that.
It appears effortless. I mean, like, it appears.
He never complains about it. He never acts ruffled. But like, I don't understand. I'm like, how are you doing that? You know, you're
be a little bit hard.
Yeah. You want them to like appreciate what you do all day. Like, maybe I make it like a little bit too easy for him. I don't know. So, but he really he's been great. So
yeah. So what accomplishment are you most proud of? Like, what in your life so far has been your biggest accomplishment? Is it getting the deal, or is it seeing the book, you know, come to fruition, or is it
I think that answer would change for me a lot. At different times, I've thought different things. It meant a lot to me to be a finalist for the Southern Book Prize. I was up against Ann Patchett, so I knew I wasn't going to win. But like, just to have gotten to the very end of that process, I mean, and it was my second novel. It was Lies and Other Acts of Love. I wasn't that well known. That was really incredible. I don't know. I honestly, this like isn't as concrete as maybe the question, but as maybe the answer to the question should be. But I think just being here and like having a 6th book coming out, and you know, a lot of people don't get this opportunity. Like, a lot of people get a book or they get 2 books and then you never hear from them again. So to be here with a 6th book and a 7th on the way, and just knowing that like I did this and that this is like a real career and it's a viable thing, it's shocking.
Yeah, no, it's a huge deal, because there's so many people that want to be doing that and don't get the opportunity. Somebody asked me one time that it seemed so easy, and I said, well, I can tell you that she worked very, very hard for her luck. You know, there's an element of luck in there, but you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be all those places, do all those things, and most people just.
And I think there's an element of luck in everything, for sure. But I mean, when new authors will like say, can we talk, or can, you know, and I say, they're like, you know, why are you still here? Or, you know, why do you have this many readers, or whatever it is? I'm like, because I do things that other people aren't willing to do.
Right.
And I kind of think that's everything.
Put yourself out there.
And there are plenty of people that are willing to do it. I mean, I've told you this. So, you know, Mary Kay Andrews and Mary Alice Monroe are 2 of probably the most well-known respected Southern women's fiction authors. And every time I think, oh my gosh, I'm really tired, I'm like, this is Mary Alice's like 27th novel, and she's going out there like a rock star on that.
I know. You tell me that all the time, that you
Yeah,
can't
and
believe
like,
how much they tour and how much they.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And like, I'll ask them to do some event, and it isn't even something like that exciting or swanky, and they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, because you're always, and you're always trying to grow, and you're always trying to get better, and you always want the next thing, whatever that is, and you want to stay there. So it has inspired me just to realize that it's hard work to get here, but it's hard work to stay here, and that never really ends. But it's fun. So
right. Well, I want to ask you something that I get certainly weekly from people that I see just in my daily life, just around town and wherever, that people always ask me, like, what advice you'd give to somebody trying to break into this field, like, because it is a hard.
Well, so I think the first thing is, I mean, it sounds kind of simple, but finish the book. I think a lot of people are thinking about, they're asking me what agent they should query, and I'm like, oh, what's your book about? And they're like, oh, I haven't written it. Well, and of course it's great to be thinking about those things as you're actively writing the book. Like that's great, but it's, you can't sell a book that you haven't written. So, writing the book is obviously the most important thing. And I think the other thing is, you don't know if you like it until you do it. I think for some people, it's their dream, and then they sit down to do it, and they're like, well, this is torturous for me. And I've heard some really famous authors say, this is torture for me every time I do it. And I can't imagine that, because for me, I do all the other things so that I get to keep doing that thing.
Right.
And the writing for me is like the real joy of it. So, and then going out and meeting readers too, but just that fulfills me, like to be able to sit down and to be able to tell those stories. So I think definitely, have a finished product, but I also think, so many people, they want a roadmap. They want you to tell them how to write a book. And the only thing I can say about that is that you just have to do it. Like, you have to get in there and you have to do it. Set a schedule, make it a priority. I said this on an interview yesterday. I mean, I was writing my first book when Will was like, I started it when he was like 3 days old, my first published novel. And I'd written a couple of manuscripts before then, but I didn't have big chunks of time in which to do it. And there wasn't, there wasn't kind of a plan necessarily. It was just squeezing it in wherever I could. And I think that's okay. I mean, I think if this is something that you really want and you're really passionate about and you're willing to do that, it's an option. It works. I mean, I wrote a book every year. And, part of that time I had a full-time job, and it is just about fitting it in where you can. And I mean, I would get up earlier than everybody else. I would stay up later than everybody else, but I eventually got it done. And the other thing is, I think people get really caught up in, like I said, I would write 2,000 to 5,000 words a day, or I write for 90 minutes. I don't think you have to get caught up in those details. Like, I think if it's something that you're showing up for and you're working on it every day, even if it's only for 10 minutes, it's keeping you in that story. It's keeping the story alive, and it's letting you, it's letting you get to that finished product, and you're going to be a lot farther along than if you waited till tomorrow to start. So
I can still remember hearing Will say, your husband Will say, that he would be asleep and he would hear this sort of click, 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 click when Will was a baby, and that you would be in the closet typing, because
you know, he heard those keys, but he never heard the baby cry. We'll have to discuss that. No, but he's a super sound sleeper, which is good. So a lot of times I can be in my bed and like, and I get ideas in the middle of the night, which is, I guess, normal, but
yeah.
Sorry, Will.
Gotta get them down, right? So is there a book that you think everyone should read? Is there something?
Yes. I think everyone should read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. It's my favorite book of all time. It's by Betty Smith. She grew up in Brooklyn as a little girl. I did not know this until recently, but she had never graduated from high school. So, I mean, she wrote like one of the most defining and beautiful books of our time. And you know how people who have made like really significant like advances or changes in their field, a lot of times will get like an honorary doctorate and things like that. Like she was awarded an honorary high school degree from a high school because she didn't have the opportunity to go to high school because her family was so poor. She had to go work, and she eventually did further her education, which I think is incredible. But I love that book so much. I think it is as resonant today as it was, you know, when it came out 100 years ago or however long ago it came out. It wasn't that long ago, was it? I can't remember what year it came out. But anyway, it's a great book.
Too.
You should read it. I just made my book club read it. It's probably the 20th time I've read it. It's good every time. And I always can kind of relate to one of the characters, like to a different character. So I read it for the first time when I was 8. And I really related to Francie at that time. So.
Right. So what's next? What's next for you?
Well, this came out today. That's my favorite. Okay, so y'all, this is not a joke. I'm not kidding. So this book comes out today, April 28th. I will get emails tonight from people who got the book today, and they will say, I loved it. It was great. When's the next one coming out? And I haven't even, I'm on my first day of tour.
I am that person, right?
You've already read the next two. Yeah, so Mom's read the 2021 book, and she'll call me and she'll be like, so how's the wedding thing? I'm like, no. But I love it. It's like the best compliment that I get in the whole world when people are like, okay, I read it. When's the next one coming? And I mean, I wish they could come out faster, but from the time you turn in a book till the time it comes out, it has to be about a year just for all the publicity and things that have to happen, and the editing and the printing and, you know, all of those processes. But yeah, so that's really fun. But I have a book, Under the Southern Sky, that's coming out in 2021. I'm so excited about it. It's a book I've been thinking about for like 5 years. And I can't wait for it, but you know, we have a while. I think it's going to come out in April 2021, but obviously this is like a really crazy time. So, it might actually even come out a little bit sooner. It's not necessarily a like summer spring break book. It could be for sure, but it doesn't have to be. So it might come out a little bit earlier. But I just don't know. Everything in publishing is a little bit nuts right now. Today, I'm like, do all the stores have their books from the warehouse? It's like all I can focus on at this moment. And then we'll think about the next thing.
One thing that I think that I love the most as a mother is that I hear you say all the time that writing is your hobby. It's like it's your love, it's your favorite thing. You know, you love to get to sit down and write, and to have a job that is your hobby, I think is just the very best thing. But I don't know that I ever knew how much you loved touring until you were in this situation now. I mean, I always knew you loved to go on tour, and I know that it was always fun getting ready. I know we'd have fun getting you packed, and, you know.
Spreadsheets. There are so many
spreadsheets involved.
Like my team, it's like their favorite thing in the whole world. They're like, we're so glad to know that you're wearing, you know, your red dress with your, you know, gold pumps today. But when you were gone for that many weeks in a row, I mean, we are trying to coordinate, where do we ship suitcases? Who's going to be meeting me the next week that can like take dirty clothes home and bring new ones? I mean, it's like, I don't think people think about the logistics of that. I mean, you know, you think about packing for a 2-week trip to Europe and then like multiply that, you know, I mean, it's
right.
Insane. So Mom has to come. We take over the whole guest bedroom, and it like turns into a closet. It's horrifying.
But really fun.
It's fun. We get it done, and it's great. But we didn't get to do it this year.
I know it. And I think one thing that while it is fun to be able to do this virtually, I love that you have set up this whole tour, and that people have been so kind and generous, and, you know, setting you up with all of their, you know, book clubs and different things. But I think that it was interesting because you talked so much about your readers and missing that, you know. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, and I think it's so interesting too, because like with this being my 6th book, like there are places that have been every year for 6 years, and like those are my people. You know, I mean, like I can think about certain events like the Litchfield Beach Movable Feast that I go every year. And like, I love those women so much. And there's a library outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And I love the readers there. Like they're just amazing. And they turn it out for me in such a big way. And, you do get these places that you just go year after year after year, and you're visiting your favorite bookstores, like, the Country Bookshop in Southern Pines is one of my favorite bookstores. I love going there every year. I love the readers there. I love Kimberly, who owns it. Like I have like legitimate friends from these places that I met from like going on book tour every year. So it's so different to like have this time in my life. Although it's so fun because we've been doing like the first few virtual events, and like they show up there and they're
No,
there,
and
and
I do love when I go in because I see their names, and I'm like, oh, I remember Kristy talking about her. Yeah,
and so that's really fun, like to see their little boxes.
yeah,
On screen. And
so
that
a new way, but it is working.
well, and I think that's brought out. I mean, we said this before, but I think there are things that we have learned during this time that we will take forward with us. I mean, like I'm doing. Oh, y'all tune in for this. It's gonna be fun. I'm doing this huge Facebook Live event on May 1st at 7 p.m. And we'll be running it on Design Chic's Facebook page, and I'll be running it on my Kristy Woodson Harvey Facebook page. But it's running on in different groups and on different pages all over the internet at the same time, which I think is so cool. And I mean, we have the potential to have, tens of thousands of people in the same place at the same time, and they're all like, all these questions are like streaming live to a central location. So it's extremely cool to be able to, touch that many readers at the same time, like in a very organic way in places that they're visiting already. So, things like that. And like this, I mean, this totally came out of this because I was doing these Zoom chats every day, and I thought, this is fun. And not only is this fun, but like there were ones that I was doing and I thought, oh, 20 people show up to this, and we would have, 165 people like register. And I mean, that design thing that they did a few weeks ago, like on a total whim, and they had 3,500 people register in like 3 days. And I was like, okay, people like this. There's something to this. So, I think this is something really good that has come out.
It's easy. You don't have to dress. You can sit in the
right.
comfort of your home, and you can
right.
just
and you can see all these people and talk to them, and you do sort of feel a connection. And so, thank you, Mom, for doing this, for interviewing me for this first week. I'm so excited about it. I think it's gonna be really fun moving forward. I'll give you my last book plug and then we'll wrap it up. But
I'm very excited about it too. And I will have to say, I say it every book, but I really think this is my favorite one.
You heard it here first. It's my mom's favorite book.
It is a wonderful book. It really is. It's a great friendship, love, a little bit of everything.
Well, Feels Like Falling. It's out today. Go to your local bookstore. They would be so grateful to have you. But of course, you can also order it at your favorite online retailer. We'll put a big list below. But thank you guys, seriously, all of you, for your incredible support. When we started Design Chic almost 10 years ago, I had no idea that I was ever going to write a book, much less 6. And y'all have just come along. And I will have to say, every single time I go on tour, every event that I have, there are at least a handful of people that come up and say, I've read Design Chic for X number of years or whatever. And that means so much to me that that you guys come here for the design, but that you would come along this journey with me. And I love it. And I feel like, you guys are readers, and you've been so supportive of me and so supportive of my career. And honest to goodness, like if it weren't for you guys and it weren't for your support of this book, and, for your buying it and sharing it with your friends and reviewing it, I probably wouldn't be having a next book. So I can't even say how grateful I am. And also a huge shout out to all my design blogger friends, because same thing, they have just really picked this book up and kind of made it happen even when I can't go on tour, and they have done that for me year after year. So I'm super, super grateful. I hope you read it. I hope you love it. I hope you will let me know what you think. And tune back in next Tuesday. We'll have Andrew Howard here. He's going to be talking about a lot of the same things that I talked about today, which I think will be fun. He's hilarious. We've known him a long, long time, and we love his stuff, obviously. We talk about them a lot.
We can't wait.
We can't wait. So thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow, but we'll see you on camera next Tuesday.
Thank
Bye,
you for
guys.
being here.
Thank you.